Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, there's a lady here.
I don't know if I call me a lady.
There's a lady here, so be nice in the comments. I know everybody will be lovely, but just in case. This is my mom.
Hello.
We love her. I came up to visit her for the weekend, and we're having a great time, and it's spooky season, so I thought we would sit down and film a video about spooky things. Ooh. So my mom's side of the family, I feel like spooky things happen to us more than I feel like other people.
We just don't know about it. I don't know.
Yeah, they're not making YouTube videos about it. So today I thought we would sit down and kind of put some spooky music on and tell some spooky stories. Let's get started.
All right.
This story freaks me out. I just want to.
Well, you might not know the one I'm going to tell.
Which one are you going to tell?
Well, the first one I'm going to tell is about the first house we bought that we lived in when you were a little girl.
Maybe, I don't know. But this kind of stuff really freaks me out. Okay, go ahead.
So we bought a house when I was pregnant with Jordan, and she grew up in that house until she was about 4 or 5 years old. And it was actually a Camp Maxi barracks from the Paris, Texas area. And somebody had purchased it and moved it into town. And we bought it pretty cheap. Somebody had built onto it. And it was odd the way it was laid out, the way they had built onto it or whatever. But there was a bathroom that was right off of a little hall. And somebody had extended the house and put 2 bedrooms in the back and created a really long hall towards those bedrooms. One day I was getting laundry, collecting it through the house, and nobody was home but myself. And I was carrying a basket coming out of that long hallway, and I turned, and probably like most of you, my kids were lovely about dumping their dirty laundry right in front of the toilet by the bathtub. And I turned to go pick that laundry up in front or next to the bathtub, and when I turned the corner, there was a towel suspended in the air, like somebody was holding it.
What? I've never heard this story.
And I saw it, and the split second that I saw it, it dropped. And so, of course, like anybody else, I just stood there kind of amazed and went and sat on the toilet with a basket of clothes and picked up the towel 3 or 4 times trying to figure out how that happened. But I still remember it to this day exactly as it happened, crystal clear. So that was one of the things.
Ooh, that's a good beginner into the other spooks.
So about that same time, your sister, who was probably about,
Jessica?
I don't know, 12 when we moved in. She had been, I didn't know at the time that she had been seeing this figure.
I wish she was here to tell her part of the story.
Flash forward to several years later, we have kept that house but bought another house and moved into the country. And during Halloween time, I would take the girls to school, and we would listen to a show called Steve and DC in the morning. But every Halloween, they'd do a cool show where they would go somewhere and do an overnight show, and then they would come back and they would report about it on Halloween, about
like haunted
places and things like that. So we were listening to it, and Jessica was probably in the 9th grade. And they were telling a scary story, and she related to me about this figure she had been seeing. Well, prior to that, in the new house, we had a dog lady who I'd had for 18 years. She was an awesome dog. And we moved into this house. It was a split arrangement where the kids' bedrooms were at the end of that one side of the house. And our bedroom was on the other side of the house, and we had a large open living room and dining room. Well, off of that was a laundry room, and there had been a few instances where lady, that was her name, would freak out and look towards the end of the hall, towards the kids' bedrooms.
She wouldn't go back there.
You couldn't drag her down the hall.
Big dog.
Yeah, she was not afraid of many things, but so anyways, she was acting kind of funny but I was sitting on the couch, and I just happened to turn my head, and the laundry room door was open, and the light was on in the laundry room. There was no way that the shadow could have fallen the way it did with the light on in the living room and in the laundry room. And I could see a shadow of a man, a very tall man, the full length of the door, with what looked like a wide brim hat. It really kind of scared me. Several months before that, I think it was Jessica's birthday, and that was the party where we scared her with the Scream outfit and pranked her. There was about, I don't know, 10 girls there, and it was a great night, lots of scaring and stuff. But we did find out later that one of the girls had brought a Ouija board.
Unbeknownst to my family.
And it was in the top of Jessica's closet. We did remove that and get rid of that. The only way I found out about the Ouija board at Jessica's party was when your aunt and uncle came to stay. They came to stay for an extended period of time, and they actually stayed in Jessica's room. And my sister called me at work. She had been telling me, we're having nightmares at night, it's really weird, you know, yada yada. And I was like, whatever, you know. But she called me at work and said, hey, there's an Ouija board in the top of Jessica's closet. And so I know, I've heard you're not supposed to burn them, but I immediately called my husband at the time and said, you need to take that out to the burn pile. I don't want that existing, and I definitely don't want it in the house. But I was talking to Jessica, and she started telling me on the way to school that she had, since the time of the first house, that we lived in the first house, been seeing this man, this very tall man, with a wide brim hat on in a dark suit wherever we would go. And I had not yet told her about seeing the shadowy figure on the door.
You hadn't told anybody, had you?
No, I hadn't. And so she explained in detail that she felt like wherever she would go, she would see, and she was a little girl, you know, from the time she says that she began seeing this man. And so, of course, after that, we had our house blessed. We did.
There's still a stain on the laundry room door from...
Yes, from the holy water or the holy oil.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. Yeah, so those are a couple of them. Okay, this story is secondhand, and I didn't find out about it until probably, I don't know, 10 years ago. My mother grew up in Palestine in a large duplex that her parents owned both the top and bottom. 4-bedroom, but it had 2 formal dining rooms, 2 formal living rooms, all that good stuff. It's one of the older houses. Very nice.
And creepy.
And kind of creepy. We didn't feel that way because we kind of grew up going there. Actually, I thought it was creepy after after it was sold when Grandma got old. But yeah, moving her stuff out of it was pretty creepy, and remembering some of the things that we had heard and stuff in there. Anyways, so my grandparents slept downstairs. My mother, who at the time I think was about 15, 16 years old, slept upstairs, and her brother was several years older than her, so she was the only one upstairs living up there. And she went to bed one night and woke up. We're talking about devout Catholics, go to church all the time,
yes.
You know, every time the doors are opened or whatever. She goes to bed and apparently wakes up and sees a man standing at the end of her bed, which is creepy in itself because it was a duplex. There was a side entrance as well to the upstairs, and it had a very spooky stairway that we used to play in. But anyway, she woke up. She said that the man was standing there. He slowly walked up to her. He had dark hair, and jet black eyes. There was no pupil, nothing, just jet black. And walked up to her and got right next to her and leaned down and bent his face exactly over her face and stared into her eyes. And she said that she was paralyzed. There was nothing that she could do.
She couldn't move.
Couldn't move, couldn't scream, couldn't do anything. I think she said the only thing she could think of doing was like saying the Hail Mary over and over again. And anyways, she had that episode. I'm not real sure how we know how it ended.
Yeah, she's alive.
She's alive. And so anyway, Years later, she went to college at Stephen F. Austin State University. It was a weekend, and she was in a dorm. So her dorm room had herself and another girl in it who actually went home for the weekend, and then it was connected to another dorm room with 2 girls in it, and by bathroom. And the girls apparently had been over there hanging out, or vice versa. Either she had been in their dorm room or whatever. And she went back to her room, or she was in her room alone, and she fell asleep, and she woke up, and this same man was in her room. Apparently her desk was at the top of her headboard. I'm not sure how the arrangement of the room was, but she said she was paralyzed. He walked up to her. He did the same thing. And that the only thing that was going through her mind was to take the scissors or a letter opener, I can't remember exactly what it was, and stab herself with it. And so she said that it felt like an eternity, but that she sort of came to when she could start hearing in the distance pounding on her dorm room door, which was locked, and that the girls from her other dorm room had run over there because she had been screaming bloody murder at the top of her lungs, and the door was locked and they couldn't get to it. So she actually has never told me this story. It was my sister. They're very close, and my sister actually relayed this story to me. And when I asked my mother about it, she would not. She's so frightened to tell the story, and she is a very devout Catholic.
Yeah, like
so
we're talking like rosary, like
yes,
pictures on the walls, like all that. Like they would take me into Catholic church, and obviously she didn't stab herself. She just got the urge to.
Yes, and she couldn't do anything and couldn't remember a lot of the stuff, but she was very clear on that. She could feel or hear that urge to do that. There's a few things about that house. When we were little girls, we would go play upstairs. Nobody lived upstairs, of course, after my mother married and moved off or whatever. But we would often hear noises up there. But we were in church all the time, so a lot of times we would think for some strange reason it was angels and stuff like that. But yeah, so looking back when we were packing her stuff up, I had just the worst eerie feeling. This was a house that I spent most of my childhood in, that I loved, that all my Christmases and memories and all that kind of stuff were in. And when we were moving around,
was that in it?
Was that in the house?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That secretary was in it. And actually, when Grandpa died and I got the secretary, or actually when we were moving the stuff out of Grandma's house and I got the secretary in that picture, I moved the secretary, which I loved, into our house when I was married to your dad, the log house. Yeah. And I moved it in, and it was heavy, and it was a lot of trouble to get it in, and I moved it into our bedroom, and it was in there one night, and I made him move it out. And in fact, we moved it into the carport because I couldn't even have it in the house. I had such a, and it's a piece of furniture that has a lot of history. Like my grandfather wrote all kinds of letters, and he was a prominent man, and wrote to the newspaper and corresponded with people, overseas. And so, but I couldn't, something about the piece of furniture gave me such an eerie feeling.
Like anxiety almost?
Yeah, it was years before I could actually move it into a house where I lived. And of course I love it now and I have it here. But when we were moving all that stuff out of Grandma's house, I had just the creepiest feeling. It was like it wasn't even the same place. So, yeah. But when we were packing Grandma up and moving her out, she had been hearing voices. And of course, she was older, so I don't know what that was.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us and telling scary stories with us. We'll see you guys next time we upload a video. We love y'all very much. You guys leave a like and comment one of your spooky stories. I would really love to read those. And share this with somebody for Halloween time. But we'll see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.